Hello and welcome to my channel, Peaceful Rebellion, and
Gary's Alternative Interactions.
super. Hiya, Gary. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, Gordon, and thank you for having me on today. And how are you doing?
I'm absolutely rock and roll today. I am, and very excited about what we're going to do. This is something brand new. I've never done this. Once I did a live where people were asking, and I was streaming the emissaries, but I didn't enjoy because it was quite clunky. And I think this one's going to be much better.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so I'm very honoured that you thought of me to and allowed me this opportunity to to speak via yourself to the Emissaries and ask some questions. So again, um, before we start, and this is also a message to the Emissaries. Um, I'm only asking these questions in respect, sincerity, and love. We only have our frames of reference here in this realm. And if any of the questions are clunky or not quite as they would want them to be put to them, I apologize, but I'm sure they're going to give me a little bit of wiggle room on this one because they'll understand.
I'm sure. I was talking to them this morning, and they said that they were excited about this. They were excited about the interaction, and I was saying, how is it going to work? And they said, just trust and we'll do it. So probably, again, I think what I shall be doing is relaying the information that I get, very much like when I'm talking to them. They give me the information, and then I'll put it in a message. So that's what I'll be doing rather than streaming them, which is a lot slower, and that's not, it'd be easier just to do that. Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's
yeah,
great.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's brilliant. And for everybody's information, at 5 o'clock this morning, I got woken up by my higher self saying, "You need to ask these questions." And typically of me, I went back to sleep, but I did actually remember quite a few of the questions. And
Very
I
good.
have got quite a few questions here pre-done, but we'll also go off piste, as it were, if something really interesting comes out. So
Exactly. And I don't know what questions Gary's got, by the way. And I didn't want to know. I didn't want to ask because I would much rather that the emissaries have it fresh. Otherwise, I'll be starting to impose my thoughts on it as well. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. So what I'm going to do, if you just give me, I mean, we could edit it out, but I'm just going to get myself into the right place so that I can connect and just be sure that I'm there. Okay. They're there.
superb. So Emissaries, welcome, and thank you very much, Gordon. Um, my first question to the Emissaries is, um, some of my friends have channeled groups or beings, and some people I know continue to do so, under slightly different names. But are you a collective group, or are you a group that are all together in this message giving? And are you the ones that are allowed to interact with us in this way?
Okay. All right. Let's see what they've got to say. They're saying that they are many and they are working with many. And that, right, so they use the emissaries of God as a name for me, but that's just for me. And so they say that they are interacting with almost everybody on everybody who's going through this awakening process. They have some form of connection with them, but the work specifically with some people, specifically kind of like the relationship that I have with them, but they have an interaction with everybody. So yes, just a moment. Um, so yes, they're saying that they're a collective, right? So let me explain what they've said before. Is that they're a collective? Because I asked how many there were, how many of you, and they said that's not a good question because they said depending on the work that needs to be done, we can be many and we can be few. It just depends. So they expand according to the work that they're doing. and so that they say that they are connecting with under the guise of other names, but it's the same energy. It's the same energy that's here to assist the Great Awakening.
Yeah, superb. Thank you very much for that. And very clear answer to my not so good question there. Now, one of my questions would be from that, and it's certainly something that intrigues me, is we have connections to source. You call yours God, your God connection. For me, it's source. Just same thing, exactly the same thing, just different language. Are the Emissaries fundamentally a higher version of us?
They said immediately no. Let me just hear. Okay, so they say that they are separate to us. Right, hang on. They're separate to us, but we're all of the same stuff, basically. But what they said is that they've been charged specifically with a role which is separate to the role that we've got. So they're there as advisors, as helpers, as emissaries of a message, but separate. They're saying that they're separate to us. It's a separate kind of, I suppose, on the life path. It's not us on another level, separate.
It's a separate thread.
It's a separate energy. It's like they're showing me they're here and we're here, and but many of them have gone through our journey, and that's what they say. That's why they say that they can advise us. Not all of them, but they've got such a lot of knowledge about what we're going through because many of them have done the same journey, and so that's why they've been chosen to help to do that.
That's brilliant. That's fascinating. Because again, I do understand that we're all one and everything is one. But the question was quite very, clearly picked up by the emissaries, that I was talking about a direct thread from us to higher dimensional to higher dimensional to higher dimensional. And that makes total sense. So thank you very much for that answer. Now, I understand that time-wise, our perception of time is not that of theirs, or particularly anywhere else. This is why tarot cards or pendulums can never ever give you generally a timeable date of when something's likely to happen, because our perception of time is not their perception of time. However, I can only ask the next kind of questions that I'm going to go to from our vantage point of understanding of time.
Sure.
Okay,
Sure.
so I understand this is going to be very clunky for the emissaries, not for the audience. Okay, so that it's two different levels of understanding of their time is not our time is not theirs, and it's an interaction that they try and phase into with us, but it doesn't always work that way. So my question, another one of my questions is, with our limited understanding of how time works in the truth of movement, has the outcome already happened of the path of what we're now going on to?
Okay, let me just hear what they're going to say. Okay. So the very first words that they said is, "It is done. It's already done." Okay, that's what they said. But then what they're showing me is that they said it's like there are two plans that are running at the same time. There's the higher plan, the God plan, that's what the God plan, and then there's this plan in our dimension that's running. And so what they said is that in the higher plan, it's done. It's done. It's a done deal. It's always been a done deal. But in the lower level plan that we are experiencing, what's happening is that it's more like it's like a car going along and somebody keeps trying to grab the steering wheel and drag it off the road. And so that this plan's like this, and this plan's very, very clear. And this plan influences the one that we're in, but this plan's nice and pure, right? It's a pure plan, beautiful, godlike, beautiful. This one has interference in it, and the interference is what the emissaries call I use the word the baddies. They say baddies because I use it. It has it's interference in the plan. Hence the fact that although this plan is beautiful and clear and it's obvious and good without, this one is less easy to prophesy on or to give timings, because there are two opposing forces that are constantly in this battle. And so they could say, as they said, they could say something now, we're on the verge of this, and then the baddies do something that takes us off the verge of that. And so that's what they're saying. It's done. But sometimes it doesn't look like it's done here.
Beautiful. As Gordon was expressing that, the word came into me was static on the radio.
Yes.
So the transmission's clear when it comes from the station. By the time it gets to our radio or our receiver, it can have a crackle or an annoying buzz to that. So, and that's the analogy that I was given as Gordon was talking. So we're going to use the analogy of static. Is the static becoming less of a problem?
They said, "Oh yes, oh yes," is the very first words. That's like boom. What they're saying is that, and they're repeating these words, and they repeated them the other day. They're losing strength. They're losing strength. They're losing strength. The baddies are losing the focus that they had. They used to have razor focus because they had all of the energy. The energy before, when we were in the darkness, they had the energy. They were the major power. Now we're moving into the light. They're becoming very scattered. They're becoming very unfocused and very dangerous at the same time. Very dangerous because of this inability to actually have one plan. The whole lockstep thing is gone. And so yes, it's much less now. The static is reducing on our path. More and more people are connected. More and more people are able to feel that connection that perhaps they couldn't before. And the baddies are losing their connection. So that's kind of where we are. It's less, but because they are frightened, because they are desperate, it looks worse. Wounded animal.
Yeah, cornered. A rat cornered in the corner is the most dangerous rat you'll ever meet in your life, as the one that's going across the road in front
Absolutely.
of you with no problems. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah, that makes total sense. Now, sticking with the time thing of the two differences, okay. This is a kind of a sideways look at this. Astrology, they have been using astrology against us for a very long time. I am now becoming more and more aware of the importance of astrology and certain key things that could happen at certain key dates via astrology. Is that our best sort of thread to hold on to currently in time-wise of what we see via astrology and what can be seen from that astrology? So that question makes sense, yeah?
Okay, yeah. Uh-huh. Okay, let's have a listen. Okay. So what they were saying as you were talking, they were saying astrology is a mechanism that's there for anybody. It's there for anybody. Yes, the baddies use it because they understand it very well. And yes, we can use it because if we understand it very well, we can use it to our benefit as well. And they said that it's the mechanism. How can they're giving me images. They're not giving me words, they're giving me images. I'm having to convert it into words. What they showed me was all the stars, right? Whatever they are, all the stars there. And all of us are hanging from them like puppets.
Yes.
Hanging from the stars. And so and there's this big mechanism that's going around, and we're all moving in a dance with that. So what and they've said this before, that the actual energetic astrological alignments are extremely important. That's why the baddies use them so much, because they're so important. But we can use them as well, and they're just as important for us as well. So is it the only tool? Is it the only tool, or the one that we can count on the most? No. They said it's not the only tool. The tool that we should most count on is our own spirituality, our own inner. They've always talked about this, the inner work. The biggest weapon, if we want to use that word, it's not a very good word, but the biggest shield that we've got is the inner work, our self-work. That's yes, we can make sure the timing's right. We're not going to do something silly when we shouldn't be doing something silly because the alignments aren't right. But the work is within.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with that. Until you've got your inner peace and you're grounded and you're standing in your own power, and you are for me personally, are accepting of the role in which you're going to be playing and the divine guidance via your source connection, at that point, then everything starts to become easier. And it really does. Right, now, with the astrology, because obviously I'm just trying to get something in my head here.
Uh-huh.
We have, if we can use a radio station analogy, the radio stations, if the radio stations, each one was an astrological pointer or landmark, when they've pulled the steering wheel of the car and it's veered off, does generally the car always come back to cross over to that astrology point to then go to the next one, regardless of how they pull the car? Does the car always weave back on and cross that point in what we would associate as time?
Okay. So to continue with your analogy, because they're using exactly the same analogy here of what they're saying is that the racetrack that we're on is, let's say, that's astrology. That's the astrological path. And so the only way we can finish the race is by following along that path. So the astrological path is the only way. There isn't another option. But what they're showing is that when the baddies are grabbing the wheel and taking us off the path, they can only do that. It's like lifting up a big weight. So they've got to hold that. And to keep us off the path, it takes masses of energy from them, enormous amounts of energy. They can't maintain it for very long. As soon as they let go, we go back to the path again, because that's the only way. So they can pull us off the path, but they can't. But it costs. And now, what they're saying is they're losing energy. They're losing energy. They're losing energy. It's so testing for them to be able to do it. They can only manage it for a short space of time. Hence the fact that you see stuff happening, but the window of something happening, and this is like a day, 2 days. They can't maintain it, and then they've got to bring something else on. So yes, we automatically go back to the path because that's the only way out.
Yeah, it's the
Mhm.
preordained road that we're following, and as we go closer to the end point of our perception in time, they are getting weaker and weaker, so have less ability to then control us. And so the stars align almost, and we follow that alignment, and there we are. It's a bit like a ship following the stars at night, isn't it?
Yeah,
The ship may go off course slightly during the
sure.
day, but that night, as soon as the star comes out and the sextant's set up, they're dead online again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're showing me the track. You know how can you remember the ski electric that we used to have? They used to underneath the car. They had a stick that held you in the track, but you used to come off the track sometimes, and you had to go back on again. But the track was that was all that there was. You couldn't really do anything else, you know. So that's what they're saying. I understand how this is working now. They're not talking to me. They're showing me things. It's much easier now, right? Okay, I understand. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's absolutely superb. So the outcome has already happened. There's a very clear plan above our pay grade, and we are now living out this plan with static and noise. And every time they pull us off, we're going back on, and they're getting less and less ability to be able to pull us off
Sure.
the road. Okay, so a while ago, I was given a term of the singularity. Now, are we? I mean, I assume the singularity is a single timeline, a single point in
Okay.
reference. Yep.
Yeah.
Are we on the scalelectric track on the singularity in going into the point in which the static will end?
Okay. Okay. So yeah. So what they're showing me is yes, that there's been a suddenly we're into scale. I've got is scale electric plans in my mind. Like, oh. Everything's converged into one now. We're on one path, and we're on one path because, and what they're saying is that this has to happen this way. It has to happen so that all of our learnings that we had before, being on multiple timelines, have all converged into one, because here we've got to be the best version of ourselves that we can. And so it's a conversion of everything we've learned is now on one path. And then they show me the path. We're on one path, but we're having to share it with those evil motherfuckers. Yeah, we're having to share it with them. It's not. It's a hard, difficult journey, but then it splits off, and then it splits off, and so everybody then has their choice of where it is that they're going to go. The sense that they give me, and they use this term because I was talking to them this morning about what if Gary asks about times, and they said we can't give times. We've never given times, but we can use things like words like imminent, like very close. We're in it. So now they're saying we're in the split. We're in it, and this split off where we're going to lose these negative energies is imminent. That's what they say. But
Yes.
whatever that means, imminent. 6 years ago they said the Great Awakening was upon us. So and it took a while for that to manifest.
But if you actually look at it, what they said was completely correct, because 2020 was the beginning of the Great Awakening.
Oh, they were spot on. I just at the time it didn't look like it.
No, no, and this is the problem with our perception of time and understanding. And one of our biggest powers is hindsight. And
Sure.
if we can look back upon what's happened, it will then give us I find the ability to look forward to where we are going or what could possibly be.
Absolutely.
Do they agree with that analogy and perception of what I'm just put out there for them?
Okay. So what they have said is that yes, they agree with you. They agree with you, but they've added something, which is their message. And remember, they were working. They weren't just working with me. They're working with so many people. They said that the message, the idea of them coming to give the message, is twofold. One is to let people know that this is happening, and the other one is to make it happen by giving the message. Oh, we switch sides for whatever. Oh no, no, I'm going to put my hand down.
You put your hand up.
Yeah, and then switch your sides. So, so they're saying that the very act of them, it's all part of this big plan, this higher plan, which is it had to happen that this energy had to come, the emissaries and whatever it is for everybody else, to come to give the message, because the giving of the message is what manifests it, what creates it. And so, and they say this all the time, that for the messages that I give, it was something they said recently, it's actually it's the speaking of it that brings about the change. It's the speaking, it's the voicing of the message. And so what they're saying, hang on, I'm losing, I'm getting sidetracked now in what they said. So yes, they were telling us what was going to happen, and they were creating the same thing. They were making it happen at the same time. That's what they're saying.
This is really interesting for me personally in my personal journey, because I've been talking about manifestation fundamentally since I came onto YouTube the last 10 months, 11 months. And then recently I've been talking more about reality tunnels, and that we are the true creators of, and we create our future by expressing it, manifesting it. Okay. The fact that I'm talking to you now and the Emissaries now, is this because it aligns with the recent programs I've been doing on my shows and the recent messages Gordon's been putting out, that this is now the time to create the new reality tunnel to confirm the split and for us to jump onto the path that we should be following?
Okay. So, by the way, I've got to say this because they keep shouting it out, and it's about something you talked about before. They just kept saying, because it's their joke, there is no time. They want me to say that. There is no time.
No, I
Time just,
understand.
it just, because you talked about time before, and they keep shouting it. There is no time. So I've said it now. Right, so they can leave me to say other stuff. So what they said was absolutely nothing happens by chance. Nothing happens by chance. Every idea, not right, every. Hang on a minute. I just want a bit of clarity here before I say it. Okay. Every important idea that we have, they're just joking with me. All of these inspirations that we have are coming to us because we're being inspired. Because it's a plan. Because we've got a plan written already. We wrote our plan beforehand, and that plan was aligned with the bigger plan. And so we can't we can't claim, what's the word, what they're saying to me, everything that we do is because we planned it. There's nothing happening by accident. Okay. And what they were saying was, we can't say, yeah, what a brilliant idea I've just had. No. What a brilliant thing I've done to just access the plan that I wrote earlier on. Yes, because because that's what they talk about. That's why, oh, right, okay. The inner work, they said that the inner work, we must do it so that we can access our plan properly. And when life's not going the way it should, it's because they talk about the static, we're not connecting with our plan properly. And that's why the more centered we are, the more knowing who we are, then we can connect with our plan, and that's it. And then we're sailing. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know if
yeah.
I've answered that, but
No, that makes perfect sense because I'm finding the more centered and more grounded I am, whichever heart center, whichever language the audience connects to, it really doesn't matter. You've got the yin and the yang, and you've got that line in between, the wiggly line. Well, it's the wiggly line I'm trying to stay on all the time. And sometimes I'll be over this way a bit more
sure.
and that way a bit more. But that wiggly line enables me to connect in a cleaner way to my higher self. And Gordon and I have spoken about this before, where this is kind of a perceptual idea. But do we actually ever really have an idea ourselves from here, or are all the ideas from there? Okay. And so Gordon has just kind of answered that with the Emissaries, saying that because we're then able to, or our frequency, our energy is open to the possibility of, it enables us to access the guidance from our higher self, which is ultimately connected to the plan. So are they agreeing with that analogy for the audience, for clarity?
Absolutely. That's what they're saying, is that the better we are, to use crude words, the better we are here, the easier it is for us to be true to ourselves.
Yeah,
which is
superb.
the ultimate purpose of why we're here, to remember who we are, to be true to ourselves.
Yeah, brilliant. Now, taking that concept on and the manifestation on, I'm currently being guided towards the next stage. Now, I'm calling it the next stage because, I'm not really sure what to call the next stage. Can the Emissaries confirm that we are now currently beginning to, or it's imminent, that we are now in the next stage of the plan?
They said yes, by the way, yes. I just need some more information. Okay. So you're saying next stage, and what they say is the words that they give me was the split, okay? Because what they're saying is the Great Awakening is done now. And it's done, and I know I'm repeating what they said before, but it's done because what they're saying is that everybody, or just about everybody? Okay. So just about everybody and imminently everybody has already made the decision in the heart. It's done. And so it's going to take time to manifest that decision. And that's the decision of, I surrender to the left-hand path, Agenda 2030. I surrender to that. I'm going to go with them. Or I reject that and I choose the path back to God. And so what they're saying is that decision's made. All that the Great Awakening was about was getting people to be able to make the decision. I've put my hand up again. I've got to stop doing it. Yeah.
That's automatic.
The Great Awakening was about getting people to make the decision. That was the purpose of it. That's what they're saying. Now we're in the next stage, which is, right, so everyone's made the decision. So now that's got to manifest itself, and is going to manifest in the way that we start really distancing ourselves from the old matrix. We are going to distance ourselves, and it's not going to be optional. It's going to happen that way because it's an energetic split. It's got nothing to do with well, I've got to do this and I've got to do that. The decision's made. your heart's set. And so it's just a matter of letting this split happen in the way that it's going to happen. And as they said before, the only thing that we can do is to watch where we focus, because the more we focus on the other path, it'll feel that it drags on. It'll drag on.
Yeah. And for me personally, this is why we're seeing a lot of noise about digital issues and everything else, because this is all they've got left, and they're clinging on by their little fingertips, trying to make us put our energy into something that we don't need to be looking at. For me personally.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, with the next stage and having a little bit of foresight, taking that step forward, I'm aware that we need, for our continuity of life, to see the show play out in front of us. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Are we about to see the show, or are we now in the point of where we're seeing the show of the current ruling system fall away in front of us via taking the split and the decisions being made?
Okay. Okay, so as you were talking, they said we're going to see some terrible things. That's what they said. You're going to see some terrible things. But they didn't mean like terrible, frightening, terrible, like shocking, terrible stuff. And they're saying that it's a vitally important part of the healing that we have to go through, which is letting go, the closure of loops that are opened. So we can't go suddenly just find ourselves in this beautiful place and everything's all right. We need closure on such a lot of things. And so they said that we're going to observe that. We don't necessarily have to be involved in that, but we're going to be aware that it's happening, the closure. Because what they're saying is, on our path, the nice one, we will see the fall. We will see everything falling away. Everything will fall away. And there may be some chaos involved in that. Very short-lived, and nothing like the try to sell us, like, oh, the systems are going to collapse, and oh, the food supply. No, they don't talk about that. They just said that it's going to be shocking, and it's going to be, we're going to have periods of time where we think, well, what the actual F is happening and what's going to happen. But that's on our timeline. And those that go on the other timeline are just going to see everything become, they're going to have the digital ID, they're going to have the chip, they're going to have everything that's promised. They're not lying when they say that. That's what they're going to have, but it's not on our timeline.
Yeah. And that confirms for me exactly my thoughts on the process and what I believe we're going to see. There's going to be certain events that have been foreseen as happening that we will never see because we won't be there. We'll be going somewhere else. The Scale Electric track is splitting like a train line. It's going to split, and their train track's going to go down this way, and ours is going to go up, 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 up. And we're going to still have to see certain things play out. And I think we're very close to the beginning of seeing certain things playing out, like government, financial, and medical information disclosure. I know that time is irrelevant, but is this part of the next stage that we're now in, and is this part of that next stage of the plan?
So what they're saying, it's funny, as you're talking, they show me something, and then when I finish, I'm thinking, oh, I've already got the answer. What they're saying is that we're in a period of time now, right, where so many things are happening that we will not be able to keep up with what's happening. And the they said we're in the, with their words, we're in the scatter period. And they were talking about, you can have a gun, shoot a gun with one bullet, and you pretty much know where the bullet's going. You see where it goes to and the end result. What they said is it's a scatter process that we're in at the moment, and everything is being hit. Everything's being hit. And so we just cannot keep up with it. And so it's going to be every structure, and I'm talking about the body structures, whether it be health, whether it be government, whether it be food, whatever. Every single one of them is. They said they're in the right. We're in this scatter period because the people who've chosen to wake up, they need to wake up. I know they've chosen it, and so they said all that's happening, all of this stuff that's going to be shocking, is not for us. It's not for us. It said it's the scatter, so that the people who have said, I'm going to go there, I'm going to go to God, then very quickly they're given the information, they're shown what not to follow, if you know what I mean. So they haven't exactly answered your question, but what they're saying is everything has to fall, and that's where we are.
Yeah, no, they have actually answered the question very clearly for me.
Okay.
Because one of the analogies I'm now going to use is that we were given the red pill and we took it as a drink. And now those that have chosen to take the red pill but never took it as a drink are going to get it as a suppository.
Yeah. Yeah, it's they have to be fast tracked, and we've had time. They haven't. They have to be fast tracked, and bless them, because as you say, it's going to be a lot less pleasant.
Yeah, and my heart goes out to everybody who's newly awakened, who could be watching this thinking, "What on earth are these two lunatics talking about?" Okay, your path is going to be so difficult because what we've had years to take in, you will have months to take in.
Sure.
And that's, so there is support for you. Reach out, okay? Reach out to us and we can try and help you through this process, okay? Now, something that has been on the news recently and certainly is part of the truther community's whispering and such like is a craft called Three Eye Atlas.
Oh yeah.
Now, as we are the true manifestors in this realm, and enough of us really do believe and understand that Three Eye Atlas as the figurehead of something more that's going to come in, are we going to see this kind of help coming into us? And I'll go into the help potentially, like, are we going to see when the governments fall and we get a little bit of shenanigans going on for a short period? Are we going to see the likes of potentially a clone type good army or external help coming in that ensures that everybody who's taken the right path is supported in the way they need to be?
Okay. So they said that isn't something that they can get into, but because it's the mechanics of this, they can only talk in general, and that's mechanics. That's what they're saying. That's details that they can't get into. But what they said is that we don't know how much help we've got. We really don't know how much help we've got. Everything is set up around us to support us through this period of time. Everything is set up so that we get the support that we need. Sometimes we don't know how to get it, sometimes we don't ask for it, we don't reach out for it, but it's there. And so in every step, what they're saying is in every step that happens, that's going to happen in the future, there will be more than adequate support for to make sure, because we're on the good path now. This is the good path. This is it. So it's going to look problematic. You know, that's what we paid our tickets. We paid to have this, but we've got through the worst of it. This is the worst done. So what happens going forward is going to be very, very much supported.
Yeah, no, that's I understand that the nuts and bolts they can't necessarily talk about, but they have actually answered that in a very nice way, and thank you very much for doing so. So we will have all the support we need, and if we happen to be looking at nuts and bolts sometimes and coming up with things, it's very likely that something similar to or that kind of energy will be around us and we'll be absolutely fine. And blessings to that. Thank you.
Mm.
Now, as we can't go down the nuts and bolts, and I understand that.
You can give it a go. Eh? I mean, it might come up with something.
One of the questions that we keep hearing about, and one of the things we keep many are talking about, is those that took the correct path. We're talking about our audience now, the people who have made the decision, taking the red pill. We'll call them the red pillars, okay?
Okay.
Just for simple. So the red pillars, as a humanity group, are we about to go through a physical as well as mental upgrade? I know we've been going through it, but are we really going to suddenly notice that we're going through it? We've had an upgrade.
Okay. So what they're saying is that yes, we will, but it will be so gradual that it won't be something like, oh, tomorrow I'm suddenly upgraded. Because what they're showing me is that on the line that we're on, which just as we've been the whole line, the energy is gradually increasing. And because it wouldn't be good for us, that's what they're saying, it wouldn't be good for us to go from where we are to an extreme. It would blow our minds.
Yeah.
And so they said that it's got to be a gradual, softly increase. But yes, we ultimately we're going to be in a very, very different spiritual energy, mental energy, emotional energy, everything will be different. But that's for this timeline. That's the purpose of this next timeline, is to take us through that path. Whereas we find, and they've explained before, we finally reach this point where we've got all of these skills that we've heard about in the past, the telepathy and all of that. And that's when we get so sick of it, we have to destroy it all and start again.
No, that makes perfect sense. And for those of you who didn't watch my future life progression that Gordon did, I was shown some of this. So I was shown kind of like the end stage of what we've just the question I asked, which is very interesting. So we are definitely on that path. The red pillars are definitely on that path. Now,
Absolutely.
I would be amiss if I did not ask this question, because I have personal friends that have had this issue. Okay, those red pillars that took a medical intervention, my hope and understanding is as they've taken the red pill and they've taken the correct timeline, that the effects of the medical intervention will have no effect upon them had they're in a different frequency. Can the Emissaries make a comment on that, or is that nuts and bolts again?
No, I think what they said is that all of the things that have been done to us, in terms, all of those things that have been put into our bodies, what they put above us, what they put into our food and our water, everything. They're all designed to work in their dimension. It's stuff for their dimension. And so as we move into the other dimension, they will become meaningless. They won't have any, it's almost like the plug will be pulled out of the socket. And so it won't have any effect on us at all. It's only within, obviously, the people who go on that path were, yeah, fully plugged in. But no, it won't. What they're saying is that the only thing that we're going toward is health.
Yes. Thank you very much. It's something that I've intrinsically felt and I've done the pendulum on. But to hear it from another source in such a beautiful way is really, thank you very much for that message. It's really, really, really interesting. I'm going to be cheeky now.
Okay.
And I'm going to ask a personal question. For me personally, I'm being shown certain scenarios coming up that I'm not going to share with the audience. Can the Emissaries confirm that what I'm being shown, seen and guided to is likely to be in the future for me?
Okay, so what they're saying to me is, because obviously the again it's a bit nuts and bolts, but what they said is this: trust what it is that you're being shown. But then they say, but don't hang on to it like an attachment. Don't take it on board and then release it. Don't be holding on to it because then what they're saying is that then as the plan constantly evolves and changes, then it won't allow you to be able to constantly evolve and change if you hang on to that.
No, that's yeah, and so what I can say to the audience on this one is, if you have a belief system or a belief in something, have your belief, but also be prepared to adjust your belief system and grow as everything else around you grows. So thank you very much, Emerson, for
That's
that
exactly what they
personal.
were saying, put beautifully, Gary.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Thank you very much for the message. Now, I don't really have too many more questions
Okay.
because I think we've been on for a fair while, and
Yeah.
you could try. So I've got kind of one last question, which is two questions in one, but one. Do the Emissaries have a message for humanity about what's going to be a general override message, and what do the Emissaries see coming up for the humanity in the long time on the destination that we are now on?
Okay. So the message. The message that they've given me is that all that we need to do is keep going. And they said, no matter what you see, no matter what you feel, no matter what you think is going on, just keep going. Keep going. Because we're going in the right direction. And so no matter what you think, even if you think this is going to shit, that's not their words, that's mine. Just keep going. They said, because everything, it's done. It is done. That's what they're saying. It's done. And where are we going to? They said it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be beautiful. We're going to something that were we in it now, we wouldn't believe it. We wouldn't be able to grasp what it is because it would be so outside of our ken, so outside of our understanding. So yeah, it's going to be beautiful, and just keep going. Just keep going.
Beautiful last message. Thank you very much, Gordon. Thank you
You're,
very much, the Emissaries.
you're welcome, and thank
For
you. That was beautiful.
no, amazing opportunity for myself and the audience to really. Hopefully, I asked the questions the audience wanted. The answers for me resonated and made total sense for me. I hope they did for everybody else.
Mm. Yeah, and I've got to say that that was really interesting. The more we got into it, the easier it was to get there. And because I was at the beginning, I was thinking, well, are they going to talk to me? Because sometimes they talk to me and sometimes they don't. But no, it works better when they're just showing me stuff. When they're just showing me stuff and I can put that into words. That was beautiful. That was lovely. I found it very emotional at times. I was finding it very emotional. Mm.
Yeah, yeah. No, it was. Thank you for doing it, Gordon. And
Mm.
the last word that came into my mind when with the last message was I got Shangri-La in my head.
They use paradise all the time. I just don't use it because the Jehovah's Witnesses spoiled it for me, paradise. But that's basically what they're referring to. It's going to be
Yeah,
a
yeah,
paradise.
it is, and it's so refreshing and so lovely to hear it from multiple different sources. You
Sure.
know, and again, everyone, use your discernment. Watch people who, I mean, there's so much stuff. There's so much information out there at the moment. It's the scattergun that they were talking about.
Sure, yeah.
but but look inside yourself. Resonate. Does that person resonate? Is the message resonating? you know Sit with it, and follow what your gut and your heart says, not always what the head says.
Sure. And as well, the something that the emissaries have said a lot is that they're there, and that group, whatever they are, they're there to connect with everybody. And so connect. Don't rely on people like us to give you the message. You don't need it. Connect. Just go into nature, open yourself up, and surrender. Surrender to this. And it's incredible when you surrender and you say, "Look, you show me." Then it'll start. They'll come. All they need is a permission. They must have your permission. You've got to give them permission to come. They won't just force their way into your life, But when you give them permission, they'll come and they'll show you what the story is. And it might be a little bit different to ours, but it'll be your story.
They always use the words that you understand
Sure.
in the context that you understand as the individual. So one of the big things that I've found recently, and it's been a while, but it took me a while to get my head around this, was Gordon may use the word God.
Mm.
I'll use the word higher self, or source, or
Sure.
creator.
Uh-huh.
Everything is the same. It's the same energy when meant in the right way.
Sure.
And so for you personally, whatever resonates with you word wise, that's your personal inner language that you use. Don't get hung up by language as such. It's the message and the feeling of the message that's just as important as the message itself.
Absolutely. The intention behind the words is everything. The words, well, depends. We've all got different words, haven't we?
We
It's
have.
all about the same stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Gary, that was absolutely, thank you so much for doing that. And I loved your
No,
questions. They were great.
no, thank you, Gordon. That was an honour to be able to be asked, and it was an honour to be able to actually free flow a bit and go off piste. And I did quite a bit go off piste on that
Sure. Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but I got all the main questions in that I wanted to, and some additional ones. And certainly the medical intervention one was a very important message that I feel we need to get out to help people calm down and relax
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
things that they may have been forced into in the past, to know that in the future, because they've taken the right path, created their new paradigm, it will have no effect.
Sure. Sure. Absolutely. And, just to finish on that, uh, those people for anybody who's on this path now, part of the journey within is putting yourself right physically. We've got a physical body. The physical body, this car that we're driving, we need to service it. We need to take care of it. We need to make sure that everything is tippy top. And so don't just rely on spirit and the timeline to put yourself right. There are tons of things that you can do now to start putting yourself right. The body temple is exactly that. If your temple is all clean, you can go in and you can pray and it's beautiful. If it's cluttered and in a bad way, it just makes everything else more difficult. So definitely, do the work spiritually, emotionally, physically, and mentally. That the four areas you've got to work on. We all have to work on.
Yeah, and that never stops. You know, Gordon never stops doing that. I never stop. Obviously, the physical stuff I'm terrible at, but but the inner work and the self growth never ever stops.
Sure.
Every day is a learning opportunity, and every day presents something of uniqueness and amazingness and beauty.
Yeah.
Don't forget to look at the beauty of the world and the lovely things in the world that really make your heart sing. It's very important.
Yeah. Very true. Well, Gary, thank you very much, and hopefully in the future we can do this again. Yeah, in a month or so, and see what happens. Yeah.
I would love to. It'd be an honor. Thank you
Yeah.
very much, Gordon.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, thank you for spending time with us, and we'll see you again.
Bye bye.